Lots is happening that is not making the top headlines, but is nevertheless profoundly changing the world, and no more so than where it concerns the competition between Trump's United States and Xi Jinping's China. So, let's discuss. The United States continues to walk away from global forums and collaborations while bullying former allies and others with tariffs. China, whose leader Xi Jinping has long maintained that United States global dominance is in terminal decline and China's rise to ascendancy is therefore assured, sees opportunities everywhere and by all accounts is taking them. This week, President Trump announced that the US would once again be withdrawing from UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. Now, the US was once UNESCO's biggest cheerleader and financial backer. But that ended when Trump first took office in 2017. Of course, it's ending again right now. As with other UN bodies the US has retreated from, such as the World Health Organization, China has been quick to fill the vacuum. The New York Times reported that a Chinese official is now UNESCO's Deputy Director General, a post that, according to diplomats, tends to come in exchange for political or financial favours. As a result, UNESCO has become more favourable to key Chinese interests, including, unsurprisingly, the Belt and Road Initiative. Beijing has been lobbying hard as well for World Heritage designations for sites in China, aiming to overtake Italy as the country with the most culturally significant sites. UNESCO also sets artificial intelligence guidelines. Well, we'll come back to that. So, why is the US leaving UNESCO? Well, because the Trump administration sees no value in anything that isn't explicitly America first. The State Department said in a statement that UNESCO promotes, quote, a globalist ideological agenda for international development at odds with our American first foreign policy. Well, who'd have thought that the United Nations might be globalist in orientation? Truly shocking. Trump has also accused UNESCO of being, yes, you've guessed it, too woke. Now, whenever I travel in the world, I always think about how you travel to other countries to find things different, not to find things the same as you left them. But not when it comes to multilateral organisations and you're a member of the US administration, apparently. Trump seems to believe that by walking away from these institutions, somehow they cease to exist. They were only there because of American approval and funding, so without that they have no reason to continue. Kind of like a child covering their eyes and thinking that means that you can't see them. But of course they don't. The work they do continues on. All the other countries who continue to value that work in spite of the opinion of the White House, they keep engaging with it. And China has been filling in the gaps. It's not just in multilateral organisations, of course, but most particularly on global trade. With the US upending the trading system in pursuit of one-sided exploitative deals, Xi Jinping has been seeing opportunity to present China as the more stable, rules-respecting partner. And that was on clear display this week at the China-European Union Summit. Now, that summit came after serious strain in relations, particularly over China's disruption of rare earth magnet supplies that hit European manufacturers hard, and its continuing support of Russia in the Ukraine war. But while the summit was muted thanks to those tensions, Xi Jinping struck a notably different tone from his US counterpart at least. Whereas Trump routinely insults the European Union, describing it as a hostile bloc, quote, invented to screw over the United States, Xi instead told his guests that China and the EU were two big guys in a multipolar world, operating with mutual respect, looking to find common ground while recognising differences. And obviously it's a very deliberate contrast. He pitched China not as a replacement hegemon, but as a fellow traveller, a fellow pillar in a new order. And the EU, however imperfect it may be, is receptive to being treated as a serious power in its own right. The other contrast was saying that they should be seeking win-win outcomes. Now, look, in other times that would have been a statement of the obvious, a business as usual platitude. But it's obviously not a phrase you'll hear from the Trump team anytime soon, because Trump believes in zero-sum outcomes, winners and losers. Any deal he strikes is one where, in his mind, he won over the other side. Now, that doesn't make Xi's job a walkover. The EU isn't naive, it's hard-nosed, bureaucratic to a fault, far from easy to seduce with easy charm. The summit ended with some modest progress, particularly around rare earth access, and a shared goal to lead global climate change efforts. And that makes sense. The United States at this point, of course, has regressed on climate policy, which is putting it gently. The rest of the world, which currently doesn't get its climate science filtered through Tucker Carlson, still needs to do the work. And that suits China particularly because it's already betting on clean tech. It identified early that clean energy and clean tech mobility were the industries of the future, and it invested accordingly. The US, meanwhile, is still trying to squeeze the last few gallons of oil out of the ground to keep its gas guzzlers wheezing along for just a little while longer. At some point, it's going to turn around and wonder how it lost the status of the world's most innovative nation, and it will probably conclude that somehow it was done to it by someone who screwed it over. But we'll see. That still leaves the EU with its own concerns, because it wants the clean tech revolution, but it doesn't want cheap Chinese EVs flooding its markets and putting local manufacturers out of business. But the EU has an innovation problem. European politicians have repeatedly flagged the risks of relying on American platforms, from social media to cloud computing to artificial intelligence. Because if Trump's administration decided that, say YouTube needed to be more tightly censored, not that they'd ever do such a thing, of course, but if they did, there's no viable non-American alternative for channels considered critical of a regime. Not thinking of any channels in particular, but I have done the research. But more strategically, the EU's concern is about AI, and this is where the next shift may already be happening. Earlier this year, Chinese firm DeepSeek released a powerful open-source AI model capable of rivaling US commercial leaders, but trainable at a fraction of the cost. Another Chinese firm, Moonshot AI, just released its own breakthrough model, Kimi K2. But it's not just about capability, it's about strategy. American firms treat AI as a high-value product. China is treating it as a global infrastructure play. And a large part of this comes down to the fact that it's open source. So the open source hub Hugging Face reported that over 500 tailored versions of the model were downloaded 2.5 million times in just the first month. Customized for fields like healthcare, education, logistics, you name it. This open source model, with low hardware requirements, it's a gift to the global south, to researchers, to developers in constrained environments. And if it continues in that trajectory, it could become a world standard. It is what Microsoft did in the 90s. Let people pirate the software, don't crack down, let them build the habit of using it. Later then, you can start to build the market. Now it's China using that playbook, but it's open by design, so even easy piracy is not required. And American companies with huge sunk costs and legacy infrastructure, maybe they won't be as agile in the future as they used to be. Now, of course, for some in the US, the fear isn't economic, it's military, because AI isn't just about powering education and logistics, it's about powering weapon systems. And here as well, China has been investing heavily. So during the recent India-Pakistan conflict, Chinese fighter jets, not even the top-tier ones, were reportedly effective in the first major beyond visual range engagement. Over 100 aircraft operating without direct line of sight, with feeds from satellites, radars and drones in real time. As analyst Steve Su puts it, many believe this brief conflict revealed that China now has the key capabilities to dominate future air combat. That means long-range missiles that can strike US aircraft carriers and bases as far out as Guam. It means over-the-horizon radar networks, satellite targeting, hypersonic weapons, and the ability to mass-produce all of it. China's doing what a rising superpower is supposed to do, investing in education and innovation. So Steve Su again. China is now producing scientists and engineers at nearly 10 times the rate of the United States. Their AI-trained college graduates outnumber the rest of the world combined. Their R&D spending is about to outpace the United States, and by 2030 could be 50% higher. This is the long game. While America fights over who can be bullied to give it a little bit more today in the form of tariffs, China is steadily building the world that it hopes is going to come next, probably barely able to believe its luck. So, what's the takeaway? America's retreat isn't just a missed opportunity. It's a handover. Not by defeat, but by abdication. China isn't conquering the world, it's inheriting it. The only question now is whether the US or anyone else is going to be able to do a single thing to change that trajectory. Or if Xi Jinping, for all the problems his own country has, simply needs to carry on and watch it all fall into place.